So can someone explain to me how spending £60 million on Mbeumo after already spending £60 million on Cunha is a good idea when we are now looking at strikers such as Calvert-Lewin and Vlahovic simply because of their price tag available on a free or at least for a reduced transfer fee, whilst in central midfield we are being linked with Javi Guerra because he's one of the cut price options as an alternative to Ederson at just £20 to £25 million. Considering at the start of the summer everyone was talking about how we need a complete rebuild, maybe it's sensible to not sign 2 players for £60 million and instead spread the money around 5 to 7 players, because 4 players isn't going to be enough. I mean, we still need a starting left wing back, another central midfielder if we are looking to offload Casemiro, and that isn't even mentioning players like Onana and Dalot who could be upgraded, or even someone who could be used in a hybrid role between the central centre-back and central midfield positions. I mean, what happened to this isn't Amorim's squad, it's not his fault, the players aren't good enough, and we need a complete rebuild in order to just get back to like 7th or 8th. That seems to have gone completely out of the window. I mean, the Vlahovic and Javi Guerra links, they aren't terrible, but they wouldn't even be in my top 5 main targets for those positions. But what about the Calvert-Lewin deal? Considering he would be available on a free, could this signing be an underrated stroke of genius? Now, of course it's not as stupid. Calvert-Lewin statistically has been one of the worst finishers in the Premier League consistently for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Now, before I get into that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of different current season and retro jerseys, including the new Manchester United releases for the upcoming season. They sent me over this 2006-2007 Manchester United white away shirt with Ronaldo 7 on the back, as well as this Zidane Juventus shirt from the 90s as well. If you use code ATLANTIS at checkout, you'll get a 10% discount, so I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments section below. So look at this graph. Calvert-Lewin's non-penalty XG actually looks fairly impressive considering he was playing for Everton last season, recording a rate just below Ollie Watkins. However, his XG conversion is abysmal, massively underperforming his non-penalty XG, which you can see visually on this plot graph from this season, but also looking at his FBref report from the past 3 Premier League seasons as well, underperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.20 per 90 this season in the Premier League, 0.26 per 90 in 23-24, and 0.31 per 90 in the season before that. I mean, this isn't a fluke. Calvert-Lewin's ability to consistently underperform his XG is almost impressive at this point, and the most hilarious part about United's recent hunt for a striker is that we've just missed out on 2 strikers who would have been fairly cheap in comparison to the likes of Gyökeres and Ekitike, who I genuinely think both have elite level potential. John Duran has just gone to Fenerbahce on a season-long loan, and whilst the financial details aren't clear, from what I can gauge it seems to be a loan fee of around £13.5 million, a fifth of the £65 million transfer fee that Al Nassr paid Villa back in January, plus covering £8.5 million of his £16.7 million Saudi salary, with John Duran foregoing the difference I would assume in order to make any loan viable. If you aren't going to go for Osimhen or Ekitike after Gyökeres, surely a Premier League proven John Duran, which United seem to love at the moment, at the cost of that loan plus maybe a £52 million option to buy at the end of the season, is surely a deal worth at least considering, let alone doing, especially when the alternatives seem to be Vlahovic and Calvert-Lewin. See, John Duran is what a lot of United fans used to, and some till this day still think Hojlund is. See, I don't think you can say anymore that Hojlund has elite level potential. I would actually say I think he has Dusan Vlahovic current ability level potential, which from when I first analysed Hojlund at Atalanta is still fairly high potential, considering Hojlund's sample size was effectively 30 to 45% of Vlahovic's best season at Fiorentina and Juventus. However, major faults in Hojlund's game have come to the surface within the last 2 seasons, and so I think that forces me and everyone else who saw promise and potential in Hojlund initially to adjust our assessment on him, because otherwise I think in order to be consistent, you would then also have to consider other young strikers such as Liam Delap to have elite level potential, but definitely having a lower probability of this occurring than someone like John Duran. If Rasmus Hojlund has elite level potential, then you could also say the same for players like Evan Ferguson, Vitor Roque, Conrad Harder, and maybe another 6 to 10 other young strikers around Europe. And it's because Hojlund doesn't just need to develop, but significantly develop multiple parts of his game. Matthias Cunha being able to develop the tackling technique, positional understanding, and defensive awareness to gradually be converted into a ball-carrying central midfielder in the mould of a Moussa Dembele, as I discussed in my previous analysis video, in my opinion is far easier, simpler, and more likely to happen in a shorter period of time than Hojlund's first touch, close ball control, efficient use of his physicality, football IQ and movement, ball manipulation and finishing ability, all getting to a highly competent level, let alone the elite level. I consider Hojlund's ceiling potential probably around Lukaku at Inter level, but we may not see him get there until his late 20s. Whilst on the other hand, I think Duran's ceiling potential is probably around 09-10 Didier Drogba level. And I would actually go as far to say that I think Duran's potential is just as high as Erling Haaland's, which may seem like a vast over-exaggeration to some, but when I show you these plot graphs and use the eye test to analyse Duran, I think it is hard to rule it out completely. But before I do, let me tell you about the other striker that United have missed out on, and ironically it actually seems to be Everton's Calvert-Lewin replacement, or I could even say an upgrade, Tiano Barry, who they've just signed for £27 million from Villarreal. Tiano Barry is 6'5" in stature, he's 23 in October. Somehow John Duran isn't 22 until December, despite already having established himself as one of the most promising strikers in the whole of Europe, and already having played in the MLS Saudi Pro League in Turkey. Statistically and from the eye test, in my opinion, both of them have elite level potential, and it's probably best to start with the objective statistical analysis. John Duran's non-penalty goals and non-penalty XG output, alongside his non-penalty XG conversion, at least in terms of per 90 metrics, is genuinely elite level already, doing so across small individual sample sizes. His FBref report lasts 365 days, 87 minutes played. When compared against every other forward in Europe's top 5 leagues, Duran ranked in the 99th percentile, the top 1%, for his non-penalty goals, scoring at a rate of over 1 non-penalty goal a game, massively overperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.44 per 90, despite also sitting in the 89th percentile for that particular metric. But you said massive XG overperformance is a bad thing. That's not really what I said. I said it can show how a player is scoring at an unsustainable rate, which has a low probability of continuing into the future, which you could say for John Duran when looking at a season in isolation, but whether it's the Premier League or Champions League this season, the 23-24 Premier League season, and also, not to the same degree, in the MLS in 2022, a consistent theme in John Duran's game is his ability to not just overperform his non-penalty XG, but also do so by a significant amount, whilst also consistently recording a high non-penalty XG outright as well. John Duran is what we call a statistical unicorn when it comes to his goal scoring, with Tiano Barry also standing out just to a more moderate level. See, in this graph, which I spoke about in my video analysing why Ruben Amorim wants a striker like Hugo Ekitike or Victor Gyokeres, which I'll leave linked in the eye above, you can see that Tiano Barry is situated in the Peloton main group, alongside the likes of Turan, Watkins and Isaac, showing that the Ivorian's ball carrying and non-penalty XG is currently at an impressive output rate, but also that his skill set is pretty much ideal for what Ruben Amorim wants in a centre forward. And with both of these players, I would say that the eye test follows. See, when watching Duran in comparison to someone like Hojlund, there's no viewer anxiety that comes with it. Hojlund is clunky, awkward and inefficient with the ball at his feet, far too influenced by physical duels and not that strong aerially, whilst everything with Duran is fluid, natural and efficient, exuding a sense of laid-back confidence and control, in sharp contrast to Hojlund's erratic and often panic style. Tiano Barry's goal-scoring ability is not on the same level as John Duran's, but like the Colombian, his technical ability means that his skill set is well-rounded to a highly competent level, despite neither excelling when it comes to their chance creation or ball progression either. They are very much advanced target man type of strikers, with their game being highly focused around using their physicality, pace and their goal scoring ability inside of the box. As I said before, I think John Duran has Didier Drogba 09-10 potential, whilst in terms of current ability I'd probably say he's already around Drogba 05-06 level, with the capability of exploding into an elite level striker as early as 2026, also reminding me of a young Nicolas Anelka in the late 1990s. Whilst I do think that Tiano Barry will have a slower development, taking probably between 2 to 4 years in the Premier League before he reaches that elite level. In terms of current ability, I'd probably say he's around Osimhen at Lille in the 18-19 season, the season before his last at Lille, which would earn him the big move to Napoli. And so in terms of current and potential ability, but also stylistically, I do think Tiano Barry would have been an upgrade on both Hojlund and Xerxes, whilst also probably being a better short, mid and long-term signing than either Vlahovic or Calvert-Lewin, likely working out as better value for money in the long run, going from Gyokeres at 60 million all the way down to Vlahovic and Calvert-Lewin practically on free transfers, I think perfectly sums up United's transfer strategy this summer: lowest common denominator, limited thinking, with an erratic and inefficient execution, and not even a semi-coherent alternative transfer strategy. From the eye test, but also from his 28 stat circle chart from last season, you can see that aerially Tiano Barry is incredibly dominant, just under the top 20% for his headed goals, and as I've said previously, having a striker who can score from crossing situations is massively undervalued, as it gives you a simple and frequent method of creating high value chances even against deeper defensive shapes. And when looking at his ball carrying and dribbling, something that Ruben Amorim seems to value highly in a centre forward, you can see the value he would bring. Now, he's not as good as Gyökeres Ekitike or Liam Delap, but he would still be capable of running the channels and driving the attack forward. This particular circle chart shows how complete his skill set already is, recording high non-penalty XG and goal scoring rates across the board, with only his goals minus XG rate being below the median. But as I've said before with many young strikers, consistent finishing ability is often the last attribute that needs significant development, and so the fact that Tiano Barry already ticks the aerial, physical, speed, ball carrying and XG generation boxes at the age of 22, having been valued at just under £30 million, while still only being 22 years old, means that he should have been a striker that United were at least considering as an alternative to the likes of Gyökeres and Ekitike. And so overall, having already missed out on Retegui as well, United can't say that there weren't strikers of quality available at decent prices on the market. They seem to be obsessed with Premier League players, or players just valued at £60 million plus. So let me know what you think of John Duran and Tiano Barry in the comment section below, and if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. You can use code ALANTIS at checkout for a 10% discount. It will be linked in the comments and the description, and if you want to see any other plot graphs or read any of my articles, you can sign up to my Patreon and get a 7-day free trial, so I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.